Hey everyone, welcome to the course, and in this lecture we are going to learn how we can write a unit test for the Apex REST that we developed into the previous lectures. So account manager is our class which we developed, and now we are going to write an Apex class for the same. So for the simplicity of this course, I have already developed an Apex class which we are going to cover each and every method of this class here. So as we see here inside our Apex class, you can see we have got four different methods. One is for updating an account, another one is for deleting, creating, and then we have got getting the account information. So what we will do is we will start from the get account information. That means we will start get, then we will update and will create a new account, and then we will delete the account here. So this is the process that we are going to follow. Now before we go ahead and start writing the code, if you see here into the code, that is account information for which we are writing the code, you can see here we are in the line number 91, we are getting information from the class REST context, which contains the information about both request and response, and which stores the information into the class REST request. So what we need to do is we need to prepare the object of REST request class, which will contain the request URI, HTTP method, and then we will set this request into this variable REST context the request, and then we are doing the query on three objects, that is account, contact, and cases. So what we will do is we will create three objects into a separate method which will act as utility method. So let's quickly start now. So we already have a method here, so we are talking about this method which is for getting account. Let's quickly cut that method, and then we will paste this method on the top of our test class. So again, to make any class work as test class, we need to put an annotation which is @test, and then for creating a test method we have got the syntax public static test method void, and then the name of our method. Now we know that this is a URL which we were consuming while we wanted to get the account information. And as we know that we were always passing an account record to get the account information, that's why what we are doing is in this method we have create test record where we are inserting account information and related contact, and then what we are doing is we are returning the ID of our account record. That's what here in this line we are saying, get us the ID of a account record. That means this method will be called and it will return account record. Then we are preparing the URL. This is our URL. Even you can provide any URL here because this is a fake URL that does not need to be the perfect URL, but make sure at the end you are providing a valid account ID, so that while we will be here in this Apex method, it can return the data, and then we can cover the lines or the number of lines inside our method. That's what we are doing here. And then again we are preparing a request. Why we are preparing a request? Because if we are making a request, then only we can get the response. That's why our method is doing here. First it is getting a request from the system, and then it is getting the request URI, and from the request URI we are getting the ID. That's why we are preparing the request here. We are saying that prepare a request object, and in the request object set the request URI that we are using here or we are developing here, and then set the method, which method we wanted to execute, because if we don't tell which method is it or it is, then we have to the system will not be able to identify which method actually needs to be executed. That's why here we are saying either get or post or delete or whatever the method we wanted to call. Now here what we are doing is we are assigning this request, whatever the request we prepared, we are assigning this request into the class variable of REST context, so that in our Apex class we can get the request from this REST context class, and then we can perform the further logic. Again, let's get back to the class here. You can see here the first line we are doing is we are getting the request from the REST context class. That is why we are doing here. If we don't do this, we will get the error null pointer exception even in the first line as well, saying that this particular class has a null value and we are referring a null variable. And then what we are doing is we are doing nothing. We are just calling our Apex class, which is Apex class account manager, and then the name of the method which we wanted to call, just for testing purpose. And then after getting the information, as it is a returning account wrapper, so this is returning account wrapper, we can store some information into the account wrapper class. We can say that account manager dot account wrapper. Why we are using like this account manager dot account wrapper? Because the class account wrapper is inside the class account manager. That's why we are saying that refer the class account manager, and then inside that class there is a class account wrapper. We need to refer that, and then we can provide a variable saying that wrapper, and then inside for this wrapper we can put some assert variable, assert statement. We can say that assert not equals. That means this should not be it should not be, this wrapper should not be equals to null. We must have at least one account record because we are inserting that account record. This is about get method. Now let's talk about post method. Again, what we need to do is first we will see what we are doing inside our post method. So if you see here inside our post method is accepting one parameter which is of type account information. So first thing that we need to do is we need to find out this class and see what we have inside this class. We have three parameters inside this class. One is of account type, another one is of contact type, and then we have one string type variable. So what we are doing here is inside the post account method, again it's a test class method. Here on these are the lines where we are preparing our account information class. What we did here, we prepared an account record, we prepared an contact record, and then we have got a string message, and again we are creating the object of account information class which is under account manager class. That's why we are using dot notation to access the class, and then we are simply assigning the variables into the parameter of our Apex class. And before that, again we have to prepare a request. That request must contains an URI. That's why we are preparing a URL. This is a very simple URL which we are going to access. And then what method we wanted to call, that is post. And then inside test method, before making a call to the test method or before making a call to the actual class method, again we are assigning our request to the REST context class variable. And this is the most important step that we need to remember. We don't need to forget this. If we will forget, that means we will get the null pointer exception. And as this method contains one parameter which is type of account manager dot account information, we are passing that parameter here. And then under here, like as we are inserting contact and account record, again we can quickly get back to our method here which returns even account information. So we can say here it will again return account information, and we can say here inserted record, and we can store those value here, and then we can put the assert on these variables to just check either our logic is performing correctly or not. And then what we have got is we have got update. Why we are using update before the delete? Because if we will delete the record, in case of update we will not get that record. That's why we are updating first and then deleting at the end. So again for the update we need the ID, because update operations always requires an ID, and ID is we are sending that ID from the URL. That's why we are preparing the URL like this. First we need the ID. We are using utility method to get the record ID, that is account ID, and we are passing that account ID here. And then again we are preparing a request. We are saying that URL will be the URL that we just prepared. Method will be post. Why we are putting a method post here? Because there is no method called patch. Even we can try to see if there is a method called patch or not, and then we are assigning that request into the context variable and then calling the apex class method. And this time we are passing three parameters. Why we are passing three parameters? Because our method contains three parameters. One is for rating of the account, account number, and then description of the account. Then it also returns response wrapper. We can check what we are getting here. And then at the end we have delete account. That means we need to provide one more method which is for delete account. We are getting the account ID, preparing a URL with the record ID so that we can delete that record. Method is delete in this case. So these are the four methods, and we always need to create a separate method for all the functionalities. And there are some cases we have to create more than one method for a single particular method, because of there are different logical tests with the help of if statement or else statement. We will also try to see how we can create more statements, or how we can create more parameters, sorry, more methods for a single method here. But before that, let's quickly test here and make sure that for this update we made the method as patch. See how it works. So now we are here in this class. Let's quickly open this class. Even we are here in apex test execution. So how we will test? Let's quickly get to the apex test. From the setup we will see an option called apex test execution. We need to open that and then select test. We have got only one test class inside our class, that is okay. We need to select the class and then say run. So our class is running here, and once it will run, we will see okay, we are able to see that all four methods are passing successfully. Now we can see here, we can come back to our apex class. We can click on this button. This will not be available for you, so I will open developer console, and then we will open that class to see what is the code coverage for that class that we just ran a test class for. Click on this test tab. You can see here it is an account manager class. Let's double click on this, and we are able to see that this is a update account. We are able to update. This particular line has not been covered. Why? Because we send a valid ID, and this will only cover if you are sending an invalid ID. For the delete account, we are able to delete the account. Catch is not there because there is no cases which are closed related to that account which we are deleting. Account information is covering all the lines, and then get information is also covering all the lines. Now let's talk about this update method. We wanted to cover this particular line which is 49. What we need to do inside our test method is, again we need to create one more method which will say that update test, and we can say that else here because we wanted to cover the else condition. And in the record ID, let's quickly append only a single letter which is 1. Now this record ID will be an invalid record ID, and the query will not return anything. Now let's quickly save it, and then we will again, now first time we ran from here, this time we will run from the developer console. Go to the test tab, click on this checkbox, always run asynchronously, click on new run, and you will see the name of your class. Select that class, add selected so that it will select all the methods, and then click on run. So our class has ran successfully. Now the code coverage has been increased from 90% to 92%. If you double click on this, you will see that this time your class is also getting generated, which is line number 49. So this is how you can cover. Even you can cover this else statement as well by sending an invalid ID. If you want to cover this exception as well, you can also generate some exception in your class. That means you can create a test, you can create a case related to that account which is closed. So if you will try to create that account record, you will get the error. So this is it, how you can write a test class for your Apex REST. And again, before we wrap up this class, these are the test user credentials so that you can log in into the system and get access to the code if you wanted to verify your code, how did you how you have been written your code. So this is it for this lecture. Thank you.